standard detox treatment centers in North America have an effective long-term success rate of about 8%. Takiwasi's follow-up studies report 60% of those who finished the 9-month treatment remain drug-free 3 years after leaving.
May God guide you and protect you on your journey. We can talk and theorize all we want, but what we want, clinically, as doctors, is to prove that a patient who was doing badly took the plants and is now doing better. That is the idea behind what we do, and to let it be known so that doctors in Canada and other places can be inspired by this model, which we did not invent, but only received from the indigenous people.
In the Colombian Amazon, the most respected healers from 9 indigenous groups gather each year to ensure the proper use of ayahuasca, which in their traditions requires years of rigorous training. While a legitimate interchange between doctors of different traditions shows great potential, indigenous healers have concerns about ayahuasca's commercialization and its loss of cultural context. Like a scalpel, ayahuasca can be a powerful tool in the hands of a professional. In the hands of an amateur, it can cause great harm. Dr. Mate now knows what kind of difference ayahuasca can make in the lives of those treated with it in the proper environment. Before returning home, though, he needs to understand more about how the medicine works. The most important research into the neurochemistry of ayahuasca has been done over the past decade in Spain at the University Hospital of São Paulo in Barcelona. Dr. Jordi Riba has studied the medicine's effects on the human body and mind.
What really struck me was that they appeared very calm. After they had taken ayahuasca, they remained seated with their eyes closed, but later when I interviewed them, they told me that they had revelations and visions. Mm-hmm. They had very interesting insights into their personality, the way they behaved, how they related to others, and they found that this was very useful for their everyday life and for their personal growth.
And their past, perhaps, as well?
Yeah, they also had emotional memories of their past, sometimes traumatic events.
Yes.
Some time ago, I used to joke saying that ayahuasca allowed people to have a random access to memory. But I think that it's not random, because what usually comes up are memories that have a very, very important emotional load.
Yes.
It's not just like remembering what you had yesterday for dinner, but perhaps how you felt about a relative or a loved one some years ago, or you remember some experience that was emotionally relevant to you.
Dr. Riba and his team have found that ayahuasca hyperactivates the highly evolved neocortex, the area of the brain that makes us human. This is where we perceive, reason, and make decisions. Ayahuasca also activates regions like the amygdala, which acts as a storehouse for early emotional memories, specifically the most traumatic or significant ones, like the loss of a parent. Finally, ayahuasca activates the insula, which is believed to create a bridge between our emotional impulses and our decision-making capacities.
Says that where awareness would be mediated?
The neurologist Damasio,
yes,
he says the area where feeling states are generated is the insula.
According to many neuroscientists, our decision-making process has a powerful emotional component. When any stimulus enters the brain tries to understand it based on previous experiences. In early life, powerful or traumatic events create an imprint on the brain, a pattern. This pattern is like a shortcut, activated every time we face a similar situation. For example, if we were once attacked by a dog, our brain might harbor a set of these pathways that associate that dog with all dogs, making us fear them in general. We might even react adversely to a distant bark. Repeated events cause these neural patterns to reinforce their connections, binding them with protein and building them up like scar tissue. If this is how these traumas are rooted in our brains, how does ayahuasca affect those ingrained patterns? Ayahuasca hyperactivates the entire brain region where we store and process emotional memory, often uncovering long-forgotten memories. This hyperactivation enables the conscious part of the new brain to temporarily override previously entrenched patterns, allowing new connections to be made. Dogs, for example, may no longer be feared as these new connections are created and memories re-evaluated. In field studies, ayahuasca users typically describe having emerged with new perspectives on past experiences and deeply rooted patterns of behavior. Still in Barcelona, Mate visits Dr. Josep Fabregas, who has conducted the world's largest study on the long-term effects of ayahuasca. Over a period of several years, regular users were put through standardized tests to measure the effects of the tea on reasoning and decision-making. His results show that ayahuasca is not addictive and that ritualized use has no detrimental effects on healthy subjects. In fact, in certain cognitive tests, long-term users scored better than the control groups.
Of course, the really interesting question is, now that we know that it's safe, is it also helpful? Is it useful?
For some problems, this is a very good solution.
For example?
For example,
Depression?
Post-traumatic stress, the
Yes.
stress for the sexual abuse in the young people.
Yes.
Sometimes the psychiatry is not a solution for this, but only
right.
change the symptom. But
right.
with ayahuasca, you have the possibility, the capacity to revive the situation with the same feeling and the same pain, but with the capacity to change this situation. And this is a very it's a treasure.
In a safe environment.
Yes.
Most of addiction is about post-traumatic stress. It's a self-medication. So personally, I can see that it works, and I can also see why it works. But proving it to colleagues, that's another question entirely.
It's not the ayahuasca, it's the ritual use of the ayahuasca.
Dr. Mate is determined to apply what he's learned to help his patients. But he knows it will be a challenging prospect.